Hey, this is Trinity, and you're listening to Esoteric Truth Radio. Listen, I was slouching, sitting down, reading all of this, so I went and I got my giant chair. So you're probably gonna see my face a little bit closer. Don't mind. Uh, okay, okay. So even though I do as much research as I possibly can, every once in a while, if I take a break, I think this is why I'm gonna start enjoying doing these little increments. I still learn all the time. I'm still learning. Remember I said I was going to read this other article? This one came out in 2006, right? So this is way past all that other stuff. And it's just pretty much telling you all the stuff that I had already kind of discussed, you know? Mark Foley's electronic dalliances were underage pages and dozen of White House visits by a same-sex GOP escort. His name was Jeff Bulldog Gannon. The biggest same-sex Republican scandal to date. Again, that was the uncovering of the original article that I read when I first started doing the lives. And I had to look this up. I had to, because I didn't know this. It says here, if you think this sounds outlandish, consider the original source. The story was broken on June 9th, 1989. That was what I just read to you from this article. Oh my God, I can't even back up. From this article from the Washington Times, remember? They said it's by the ultra-conservative Washington Times newspaper, which is, of course, owned by Korean right-wing cult leader Reverend Sun Myung Moon. Did you know that? Because I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I read that whole article. I've seen it more than once. I'm still in awe. I had to look it up, in multiple places. So check this out. I'll tell you what I was able to find. Okay, so even if you look this up, there really is different stories, right? Because why would the Washington Post tell you that? So they're saying, I had to put the mouse down. So they're saying that, they've been around since 1890 some shit, right? Obviously, we don't care about that. So it exchanged hands quite a few times. It was the early times, and then it was the evening times. Nobody cares. That's not my point. When they exchange hands like that, that's so behind the scenes. Why would I think he owned the paper? Why would I even attempt to make that kind of a connection? This is why we need to learn new things. I'm so screwed on this right now. I'm happy that I found it, but I'm pissed that I've been looking at this for a long time, and it didn't dawn on me to try to find any of this stuff out. Because why would I try to put that connection together? I always thought, this whole thing was owned by conservative dudes this whole time. No. Okay, hold on. I just had an article about it. See? This is why I'm always in trouble. Oh, never mind. It's the wrong browser. Okay. Hold on. This was written by the Georgetown, right? Georgetown in DC. Anyway, this was written on October 10th, 2012. It's got a huge picture of his face, right? Okay. It says, Reverend Sun Myung Moon, Korean religious leader, businessman, and founder of the Unification Church, died September 3rd in South Korea. He was 92. Moon considered himself the second coming of Jesus Christ, an idea directly heretical to mainstream Christianity. In the popular mind, his Unification Church provoked images of mass marriages performed by Moon and his wife, called the True Parents, and of young promoters who sold flowers at the airport or on the streets, also known as the Moonies. Okay. The way I found out about who the Moonies was by watching movies from the 70s. My favorite movie that I remember seeing them hassling people at the airport was Airplane. And they had these orange robes, and they were like bald, and they were just like giving out flowers and stuff like that. He owned the Washington Times. You know who doesn't want to tell you that? The Washington Times. You can find it. It's difficult. Anyway, so it says, as the Moonies, a word church members do not like, has been accused of being part of a religious cult. His attendant business interests range widely from media and automobiles to supplying fresh fish to local restaurants, namely sushi. But the powerful ambitions and personality of Moon sought more. He wanted influence throughout the world, east to west. When he was at the best place to set up his own version of a heaven on earth lobbying firm in America. And the best place, of course, the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Beside his religious activities, the fiercely anti-communist Moon became known in the United States for strongly supporting their embattled President Richard Nixon, who later resigned. He held a huge rally at the National Mall, complete with fireworks, in the late 1970s. People here took notice, even as a few young Unification Church missionaries spoke usually with Georgetown University students in the lobby of Loranger Library. A new religion which unites the peoples and churches of Christianity can sound fresh, pure, and worthy to a young mind. Moon's church and businesses continued to grow, and he was ready to stake his claim as a major Washington influencer by establishing the Washington Times in 1982. He didn't found it, he established it, right? He took hold of it, and then he ran it. But it was his. He wasn't the original owner, so don't even bother trying to find that out. It's going to get you nowhere. It got me nowhere, and I do research for, like, my thing. Anyway, while it was during the administration of Ronald Reagan, it came along before many other popular media outlets which trumpeted conservative issues. I got the opportunity to work as an editor at the Washington Times during the 90s, the Bill Clinton years, working in special sections. He wrote and edited varied features, anything from travel, history, dining, real estate, jobs to specials on inaugurations, Martin Luther King Jr., Apollo, and World War II. It says, our bailiwick did not involve any ideological comments, specifically speaking, although we were aware of the preferences of the editor at the time, Wesley Purdon. Just being in the newsroom, it was instructive for a centrist Democrat like myself to learn a bit about the thinking of the conservatives and increasingly Republican playbook. Now, the Washington Times newsroom is off the beaten path as far as media offices go. While the Washington Post and the Washington Star, many staffers went to the Times when it folded in its heyday, chose downtown D.C. The Times is in northeast D.C. on New York Avenue between the National Arboretum and the train tracks. It says the Washington Times is going off the beaten path, right? They're getting more and more and more conservative. This was written in 2012. 2012. People already knew what was going on. Okay. There was one day in the mid-1990s when Reverend Moon, who would visit occasionally and go straight to the executive offices, walked around the newsroom, meeting each editor and writer individually or at his or her desk. One veteran writer, surprised at this never-before greeting, said it was either really bad or really good. The Times could wait for about another 15 years before things might go really bad. Oh, sorry. Moon smiled, and he joked about a top investigative reporter's weight and poked him in the belly, saying he liked to eat as much fish as Moon liked. At least that's where the translator told the reporter, who was not used to being messed with, and who I imagine had to restrain himself. I also imagine steam coming out of his ears. So he's walking around. He's saying whatever he wants. He's not speaking English. He's saying anything. His translator is telling you what he's saying, but you know damn well that's not what he said. The translator was just being nice. So it says, like most newsroom creatures, Times employees were skeptical of authority and would make a quip as easily on those on 15th Street. They called their paper Little Scrappy, which did more and less. Edits encouraged new hires to take chances. once said he was glad people believed in God because he knew, along with others, that companies affiliated with the Unification Church had worked with News World Communications to spend more than $1 billion, a billion with a B, in 2012. Over the years on the newspaper, which was one of the first to report regularly on religion, spirituality, and yes, God. Of course, okay, I'm almost done. Of course, the other newspaper on 15th Street, the OP, as Times editor said, looked down at Moon's creation as Washington Post editor Ben Bradley vowed never to visit until the birthday party for Borgrave, last name, a former editor-in-chief at the Times. Bradley had worked with this dude at Newsweek in Europe and was happy to go to New York Avenue newsroom as the Times printing presses produced a Time parody version of the party in the Arbor Ballroom. The banner headline read, "A Legend in His Own Mind." The Washington Times persevered in its quest to bring an alternative voice to the Washington, D.C. national scene. Jeff Bezos owes it now. I could just skip over all that other shit. Bezos owns it now. They literally just do whatever they want to do. We've never been in a spot where we were running anything. They did what they wanted to do. They left little crumbs of information. They overwhelmed us, so we would never ask any questions. And here's where we are now. This is why I didn't do political stuff for more than a decade. Okay, I'm going to go back to the article that brought up Sun Myung Moon. It said, the article was edited by Wesley Puritan, then the Times manager. The paper would only reveal names. Oh, I'm sorry. The article was edited by Wesley Pruden, then the Times managing editor. Now its editor-in-chief in it, Pruden, who makes on secret of his conservatism, even neo-Confederate views, made it clear that higher-ups in the Reagan and Bush administrations would be protected. The paper would only reveal the names of subordinates. I just read this. I didn't even know about this, the ownership. And I think the last video, I literally said, they keep these people so they could use them as cannon fodder. That's it. And right here it's saying that a conservative newspaper that was bought by a cult leader from another country decided to break the news about a conspiracy and then only name the people that the White House didn't like or he didn't like. Exactly what's happening today. So it says the Times ran the story above the fold with a banner headline, and I already read that. Reading through the story, which have transcribed in part, appears that the investigation into the ring had begun about 9 months earlier. Anyway, I read the rest to you. I did not know about this guy. I'm going to stop this. I want to keep going. I'm super thirsty. And I don't want to lose my voice. But I don't want to stop. And I'm trying to figure out. I know nobody's here. Not one person has been in here since I started. And I've been here since 7 o'clock. I've been here for over 2 hours. And I don't even know how many lives I've done. But I think I'm going to go ahead and keep running with it for a while. See what happens. Like I said, like, follow, share, leave a comment. Listen to one of my lives. Because I'm definitely not doing any lives tomorrow. I should be back Wednesday. Probably. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here, watching me later on. And I'm Trinity. This is Necessary Truth Radio. And I'll see you in a couple of minutes, actually.